Hey everyone, Robert here. Today I'm going to be making a video here to kind of tie a bow on Heroes Inc. If you watched one of my last videos, I explained how I'm refocusing a lot of my creative energies and creative time into video game design now instead of other things like comics and uh, drawing and what have you. So this video is going to be sort of a almost a director's commentary slash history slash what would have been the future um, should the story have continued. Um, Now I'm not planning on editing this, so I apologize for me rambling because I am not very good at talking off the cuff. Um, and I apologize if you can hear my fan, but I don't have central air and I'm not turning it off. So, all right, starting here at the beginning, I've pulled up the comic itself as a good point to start with. Um, Heroes Inc., as you notice, is a 16-bit sprite comic based on Super Nintendo characters. Um, I got the inspiration to work on this around the time of when sprite comics were having kind of a big renaissance with titles like 8-Bit Theater and Bob and George being, headliners online and drawing lots and lots of traffic. Um, at the time, comics were a really good way to get stories across to other people because 2004, not everybody had broadband. Most people were still on dial-up. I was still on dial-up. So I tried to dip my foot into that lake and with mixed success. I mean, I'd say Heroes of Inc. has been fairly successful on the whole as far as some of my projects are concerned. I've made some good friends in the fan base, and but anyway, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, is because there's some people who I feel like I would have disappointed if I didn't finish up a little bit of the story at least for you. So, but yeah, the story of Heroes Inc. is when I was in high school, or it was just after high school because it was summer. No, I take it back. I was in high school when I started working on it because it was just before graduation. I went to my grandparents' like 50th wedding anniversary, and I was talking with one of my cousins, and he was talking about how awesome this new game Super Smash Brothers was that he was playing. I don't know if it was the N64 or GameCube version at that point, but he was talking about that, and we got on the subject, and we were talking about some of the sprite comics we like, and we were talking about video games we like, and one of the things that I thought was, wouldn't it be like just really awesome if somebody made a full-fledged Super Nintendo RPG like Smash Brothers, where you'd have all these characters from all these different worlds, all these different properties coming together into an RPG, and I think to some degree that's been successful in like Kingdom Hearts has done that, but as far as like Nintendo, they hadn't really done anything beyond the fighting game for story-based stuff. So now, granted, because I couldn't really do anything in terms of game development at that time, it kind of fell upon my thought process to work with some other mediums, and as I said at the time, Bob and George, 8-Bit Theater, those are big comics that I followed a lot, and I had referenced actually very early on. There's a reference to 8-Bit Theater, but the idea I had was, then let's make a sprite comic that is like an RPG of Super Smash Brothers. So the plan was to find a way to get all the heroes that you want in the story together in one sort of unified quest. And I think if I redid it from this point on, I would probably um, change up the origin here. I wouldn't do this audition thing, but um, starting out, you can see what I had worked with in the backgrounds to start with was RPG Maker 2000, and I was working with RPG Maker making some game type stuff. I didn't think I had I guess I should just say I didn't really trust in my ability to make a game to the extent that I had wanted to tell a story. So instead of making it in RPG Maker, I just used RPG Maker to make the backgrounds, but that included sprites from all different level of quality of game. So if you want to see there's some good tutorials I've seen on making sprite comics, and one of them was like, don't use different size sprites, and I break that rule all the time in here. Different styles and different sizes. So we started out, instead of going with like a organic story of how everybody met up, I said, let's start a new company and just hire a bunch of people. So auditions, yeah, there you can see we have our 8-bit theater reference. Just pulled a bunch of characters from various Super Nintendo properties. Originally, my thought was I was going to have Chrono be kind of the main character, and that's kind of how it turned into, though there have been more ensemble moments than there have been solo moments in that. But my sense of humor at the time obviously wasn't very well developed, so it's kind of cringy for me to go back and look at actually some of the writing in these. But a lot of this, let's put a like a pop-up note here. This here, Mallow from RPG Maker, or not RPG Maker, Super Mario RPG, I wanted to bring him back as a villain later on, but that never popped up as an opportunity, so that's just another little lost thread that never quite made it. But yeah, we got our RPG Maker background and all these different characters. So part of my reasoning for working with RPG Maker and Photoshop together, instead of just one or the other, was I couldn't really get the backgrounds I needed pulling directly from sprites. So I had to build those myself, and it was easier to build them on a grid using RPG Maker. And using Photoshop, I would consider Heroes Inc. to have been my greatest learning experience in Photoshop, even more so than the 4 years I spent in graphic communication major in a 4-year university. But just learning how to do Photoshop and stuff, cutting stuff. But looking back at these, you can see there's a lot of inconsistency in the line weights and the color. It's hard to look at some of these early ones, but anyway, as you go along, you have the rejects and another 8-bit theater reference I apologize to the author of for. Chrono gets his thing and sets up a predestination paradox as an audition bit. We have our main characters, Donkey Kong, Link from Legend of Zelda, Samus, and this I also feel like I think I was a lot less mature when I had started writing this, so a lot of the jokes and a lot of the references and stuff, I kind of consider them a product of their time in terms of my mental maturity. Working in 2004 would have been right after I graduated high school, so but anyway, and I even feel like this is almost culturally insensitive and inappropriate to have used a ghetto-driven accent for Mega Man here. But Yeah, had some pretty cringy moments in the early times here, and I really wish I could go back and change some of the stuff. But it's out there, it's been out there, whatever. I can only move forward and make better stuff. Yeah, we got our... the comic itself was a parody of other comics as much as it was a parody of movies and parody of games, and so you've got your reference to Forrest Gump in here, parody of other games, and this is an absolute non-joke, the fact that Donkey Kong doesn't talk, and I made it sound like he had a joke. Now, originally when I was writing this, I was thinking of making Kefka the bad guy. Like, this is obviously Kefka's sprite, and it's obviously Kefka's laugh. I just thought a ways later, once I started working on it, I felt like that was a little bit too on the nose, and thought it would have been better to have like an assistant of his or something instead. That's where the character of Damien ends up coming from. But as everyone comes in, I specifically designed this lobby originally based off the lobby in the Matrix, which has guards here from Earthbound, and you'll see later they have guards from a different source, but pulling from the Matrix with the intent of later on doing a Matrix parody, which in 2004 that was a lot more relevant. So continue on, and this is another example of one of those like sprite heights being weird, trying to stick these characters together. But yeah, also, it may come as a shock to you, but I was not very romantically active in high school. I know, a swell guy like me. But yeah, so my romance subplot here with Chrono and Samus, it wasn't really based on anything of a experiential reference. I'll just put it that way. So a lot of my dialogue and stuff is fairly terrible. But hey, look, my first filler. This was me going into college, and my green or my blue Ford, not Focus. I just got rid of a Ford Focus. I had a red Ford Focus for a while, and it crapped out on me. No, Ford Escort. This blue Ford Escort. I made a special custom sprite for it because that was the car I was driving to work. Sorry about that. I had to pause that for a second. Anyway, yeah, this blue Escort, I made custom sprite for it, and then like within a month of starting going to school, I wrapped that car around a tree. So that was one of my shortest lived vehicles. It's an interesting little side story there for you. So as we go along, we're finding out that we went with the same basic plot of the princess is kidnapped, we got to go save her, but we took Bowser out of the picture and made it somebody else. So that was where my twist was going to be, and my plan was going to be to have it be like a quest, like an RPG, where you find that where you start out isn't where you end, and all kinds of twists and turns. But yeah, I'm rambling. So moving along, yeah, this is kind of a dumb joke, but like back in the day when phone roaming charges were a thing, I thought this was a dumb idea, but given how often the princess is kidnapped and picked back up, it would make sense that she actually wouldn't worry about it that much. But yeah, so Chrono and Samus's quote-unquote date coming up here. But yeah, you have the mysterious figure with the mysterious princess figure over here, which you'll find out later is your robot there. But just want to point another thing out. This little logo here, Durabrand, was a OEM manufacturer at Walmart. I just had a whole bunch of their shit because it was the cheapest shit you could get. So I just used their logo. Anyway, yeah, damn it, Robert, stay in one place. That's a thing I probably should tell myself more often. But yeah, going on the date, referencing Star Wars as saying it's something why she wanted to do what she did, and kind of a little backstory. Didn't really get too much into the politics other than just saying, hey, look, there's an election going on. And that was some filler because I didn't want to have to put... I think I was busy at school that day or something, and I was like, oh, hey, it's the election day. Why don't I just throw something together? Shitty clip art, and kind of shitty results, I guess. But, point being, the D-pad, obviously a reference to the controller on a Nintendo. And the drunk chocobo. One of the things you'll notice about me is I love making fake logos, and even this one, even though it's crappy, I liked it. And the logo that I made here that I liked, even though it's crappy, I tried to put it on a t-shirt and couldn't sell because Cafe Press kicked it off. But yeah, that's one of the things I enjoy doing, and I'm going to be putting in some of my future stuff. If you ever end up playing any games I develop, you'll probably end up seeing a lot of fake logos in the background of fun little products. But yeah, I had to pull up all the Ninja graphics I could find from all the different games I could find. So there's like Ninja Gaiden and a couple different Final Fantasies. But yeah, happy Thanksgiving. Everybody's thankful for everything, whatever. More filler. Link is doing his deal, and you have the D-pad, the Esper 2004 tour, and again, throwing myself in as an author insert every opportunity possible. So, anyway, doing the opera song. That one is, yeah, and this is another reference to Final Fantasy III where they did the same thing. Filler. Paused. Filler. Okay, this one I like. This is one of my favorite comics from that era. This is one of the least cringy ones I have done because it's like two comics going on at the same time. I really like how this turned out. And you got the song lyrics from the opera song going on over here that they're playing, and then you got the fight going on over here, and it's kind of like back to back. And that one I liked. I'm not really proud of a lot of stuff from this early era, but that one I liked. And yeah, I didn't actually know any Japanese, so that's a Google Translate. Happy 50th comic. See, I think I was too early to celebrate these kind of things and start putting filler in. Probably kind of jinxed myself. So, some action, and some This Ends Tonight. Parody of that little shit. Nope, it's already 7:57 or 11:57. So, here we go. We had referenced destroying a pirate outpost near Talon 4. So, for those who didn't quite catch it, everything that's going on in this game is happening, I would say, roughly 4 years or so after whatever games the characters were in. So I'm saying the 1990s, in our time, is when they had their games and stuff, and all the characters are already had won their battles and joined up in Heroes Inc. after the fact. So after all the stuff that went down in Final Fantasy III, Locke and a couple of the others joined a band here. After destroying the pirate outpost near Talon 4 in Super Metroid, she decides to stop down here and meets up, falls in love, fights together, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, so the point of this is kind of explaining that everything that's going on is this is like a sequel to all these games. It's oh yeah, and here's another filler. This actually is a kind of cool filler, because this was 2005. I got a version of 3D Studio, which I think was 3D Studio Max version 2 or 3. It was an old one. It was a very early edition that I got secondhand from a professor of mine. So I was able to open up some of the files that I had been working on some of my graphic stuff in high school, which is these 3D spermy looking dudes. I did that in a class in high school. But I was able to finally get a copy and implement it in the comics. So I was just celebrating that. But yeah, moving along. There's lots of little references here that I am probably just skimming right past, like the games that they played, all the different stuff they did, D&D references, Monopoly, but yeah. Point being, the story is meant to be getting a kickoff right here at the beginning by throwing the original plan into question. And interestingly enough, even though I had gotten 3D Studio, this 3D hallway is not from 3D Studio. This one took me like 3 hours to do, just taking pieces of wall and doing perspective stretches and stuff in Photoshop. So this 3D is not 3D. This 3D is something that I took a long time to do. But yeah, so someone's in the running for Employee of the Month. In the prologue, we got our fake road trip with a fake tacky reference to Microsoft and a Ohio license plate with a shitty Plymouth Horizon, which is the kind of car my dad drove at the time, I think. But just some filler. Yeah. So then I was going to get there's a side comic floating around in here somewhere. Let me see if I can find that. And that comic is a secondary comic to this, which was originally I just want them tied up and say, hey, we're going to interrogate them, and we don't give a shit about your rights and stuff. And that kind of makes them into bad guys. And actually, I've been playing The Last of Us 2, which is a really good game despite what a lot of people are saying about it. I think a lot of people just aren't getting the point of it. But the moral gray areas in that game are not really the kind of thing that I think I was mentally equipped to kind of handle. So this comic is pretty gross, and a characterization of Mario that really doesn't, or Mario and Luigi that really doesn't seem to fit. But I had made an alternate comic version of that here. Whoop. That was with Stuck in the Middle with You. That was Reservoir Dogs, right? Reservoir Dogs had Stuck in the Middle with You in that cutting the ear off with the gap. Yeah, sorry, I keep having to pause. Anywho, yeah, this is, I think, was a poor characterization of Mario and Luigi, but anyway, the storyline was saying that, hey, they didn't get the orders directly from whoever they were getting it for. They were getting it from a guy who was a middleman who, hey, look, here's your sneaky middleman. You failed and got caught. And this is, again, one of those things where people would recognize sprite outlines. I was trying to be subtle and, well, not subtle. I was trying to be foreshadowing. And I think that instead of being subtle foreshadowing, 90% of what I did on here was really heavy-handed. So this is really not at all subtle. But here's another one of those things where I did the 3D faking it instead of actual 3D. So anyway, another continuation. They're going along in their story, and another slightly offensive joke about Mega Man living in the ghetto. So, continuing along, MapQuest. There's something. MapQuest is something that I haven't thought about in a while, but yeah, we use the map here is Corneria from Final Fantasy 1, so it made it look like that's where they're leaving from and going to Bowser's Castle. But I think 1995 is just because that's when the year it came out was. But again, also, making Bowser Jewish, I didn't intend that as any kind of like statement of anti-Semitism, because it could potentially be interpreted as such. I just thought, Bowser isn't really a real name. What if Bauerstein is what it actually means? And then I tried to be, respectful about it. I didn't like insult him about it or anything, but I can see now how like pointing out the historical villain of the characters as Jewish is potentially problematic. But I don't think that was ever going to come up in the story anyway. So, here, another filler that kind of went nowhere. This guy that popped up every now and then, he's a guy I went to high school with. A guy named Craig that I went to high school with and who helped me build a computer once. Anyway, yeah, Craig and I went to high school together, and I listed him as a web support technician because he was doing computer stuff and helping out with graphic design. Well, not graphic design, but like the web end of things. I actually have no idea whatever happened to him. I had him as a friend on Facebook, and he never is on Facebook. Haven't heard from him. Anyway, continuing, the other team decides instead of going to Bowser, they're going to go to 7-Eleven, where they heard the Ninja was meeting. Here's this was a little behind-the-scenes kind of thing that I was trying to show off. But yeah, then we get to your 7-Eleven, and price on the gas, interestingly enough, 2015, the price on the gas, $2.15 a gallon, coming to now is right about the same. So, odd. But yeah, background here made with a combination of Photoshop and RPG Maker. Yeah, this is a, what anime was this? Was this, I can't even remember what anime this was that was something they were watching. It was something I watched, I just put a background on there as a computer. I'm going to be real upset if I can't remember it now. I'm going to remember it probably after I'm done with this video. If you can remember what video or what anime I'm referencing in the background here, feel free to comment it. So anyway, nothing. Oh my God, that's impossible. It's poo, and I did a whole page of a poop joke, showing you how mature I was. Anyway, yeah, from Earthbound, default name Pooh. I don't know what that translates from. There's other characters. I always named them something else, like I don't even remember what I named him. Like I named him like Jerry or something. Give him weird names. But yeah, saying Link went to Dom to train with Pooh and is an interesting little side note adding to it. So here we go. Big fight coming up. Link has his spider senses tingling and I guess Skulltula senses. But he has his senses going up. And this was right when Star Wars Episode 3 was coming out, and I did go and see a midnight showing with my friend Craig at the time, who, again, I don't know whatever happened to him. It's weird. But point being, continuing on, we have these couple little Star Wars jokes. That's some filler. Before we get back to our fight scene, which is drawn out as almost as much as an anime. But here is the first actual 3D rendered 3D scene in 3D Studio in my 3D combination sprite comic. And there are a lot of little things in here that I can pick apart. A lot of them being like some of the effects on the fireballs and stuff are all weird, and some of the transparencies are weird, and it's not very good anti-aliasing here, and I don't know. Anyway, I think it's still pretty good for what it is, given that I was working on like technology from my high school era. But yeah, I feel like I wanted to stand out from the rest of these other Sprite comics, but I never really could market myself very well. I could never really do the person-to-person marketing that is needed to, popularize a Sprite comic. But I think doing the 3D stuff, I wanted to stand out from the rest of the crowd on that. And I still am not aware of any other combination 3D, 2D Sprite comic. And there we go. Comic number 100 is a big explosion. Lots of fun. And a filler page. It's a clip show. Let me get a drink here. Finally up to Bowser's Castle. Bowser's Castle. I wanted to kind of do what Bugs Bunny does with villains in his thing. He kind of ridicules them and makes them less powerful. So I always thought any characterization of Bowser in a comic that I was going to write was always going to be I don't want to say idiot, but like less intelligent, more almost Donald Trump-like, if that makes sense. Like egocentric and self-centered and not really an intelligent leader, but a one that can gather followers. I don't know. I don't want to make this political right now. I got other outlets for that. But Detention Block AA-23 is where the princess is, and that is another Star Wars reference. So we've got our everybody coming up doing your sneaky killings, and the very, very improbable scene of Mega Man actually wearing a turtle shell. But this comic here ended up putting a very odd little fourth wall breaking paradox in, being that if Nintendo Power exists within the universe of Heroes Inc., and this guy is saying there's a new Zelda game that's going to look pretty good, which, if I'm not mistaken, was, I believe, Twilight Princess, 2005-ish. Sounds about right. But does that mean the game is like a fictionalization of Link's actual adventures? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Try to do a whole Sephiroth looking thing where he comes out of the fire all badass. So there we are, figuring out that it's actually not him doing what he's doing, and we can get a ricochet shot in and take off the slave crown. And I turn Craig into a running joke that he's always getting killed. So finally we meet Bowser, King of the Koopas. Actually, my thought process on Bowser was more like the governor in Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks's governor character, who is incompetent but still in charge. So he makes his authorized biography, which I tried to tie in some things from the games. So we make if we make Bowser and Princess Peach having gone to school together. Oh, hey, speaking of Mel Brooks, a little Spaceball Princess Vespa reference. I always thought if I could do a little side game. This is just a kind of another pop-up side note. One of the things I want to make is a gritty, realistic Mario game where you play as Mario leading up to the first Mario game, where you have to fight Donkey Kong, and then you have to have the princess get kidnapped. But it's all realistic and stuff. Um, but some of the ideas from that came into here. That Mario having been using mushrooms, and there's a big story about he saved a kidnapped girl. Um, and meanwhile, Bowser ends up going to the Koopa Kingdom and getting into politics and becoming the Chancellor, and launching off in 1985 the invasion of the Mushroom Kingdom, which happened sort of according to this here, where it says turn people into stone, is sort of according to the same plot line from the book that came with Mario 1. So, yeah, we all know what's going on with that. So we moved aside, and I did have a lot of little references in here to music, which I believe this was something by Ludacris. Roll Out by Ludacris, I believe, is the ringtone that I had used a note measure for Mega Man. This whole sequence, again, being a strong reference to Star Wars. I get to throw a little shade at Lucasfilm down here. And these Koopa Troopas, being as dumb as they are, falling for that kind of stuff. So we move along, and here's the first indication that what's going on is not what's really going on. Is that the Koopa here is in a Final Fantasy III era mech suit. And you find out that it's actually a robot and not really a Koopa Trooper. So, first indication of that what's going on with Bowser isn't really what's going on. So you have everybody come along, you grab Bowser, you grab the princess, and looks like someone's getting suspicious watching Princess blink. This here, and later, which, yeah, he says he's got a warning signal going off in his head. Actually, I'll call back to that here in a second, but just remember this blinking here. This is a Star Trek reference, and it'll make more sense in a second. But yeah, everybody comes back. It's like, hey, we got the princess. Yay, everything's done. We don't have to actually continue along. But they're all like, well, we don't know what was going on, so we'll do our paperwork in the morning and try to figure out what's going on. So princess gets to go to sleep, and Chrono is going to Link to learn about sword fighting, because he was like, hey, you are a lot better sword fighter than me. I was trying to establish kind of a father-son dynamic originally with Link and Chrono, because I wanted Chrono to be like, you know, even though he saved his world, he only did it once. Link has saved Hyrule and the world multiple times, so I kind of turned him into the hardened warrior and Chrono into the novice, which is ironic because later in the comic you find out that Chrono's father is Link, and that was more of a metaphor in that sense, but had to kind of make it a realistic thing in here. So we got scenes of Link and Chrono training and learning how to do sword fighting, and saying we just got to anticipate your enemy's movements. You got to see it and react accordingly. So he's figuring it out, and he figured it out. Here you go. Analysis, Fourier. This is a reference to a very specific episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, in which Data's mom, quote unquote, who was Dr. Noonien Soong's wife, showed up, and turns out she was an android as well, who had her actual memories put into a robot, or into an android body. And the reason why Data figured it out is because she blinked. Her blinks were timed to the Fourier sequence, which is a sequence of numbers that has random properties. And also, I don't know why a robot's smoking, but, whatever. So he says, I gotta go warn Mario. Yo, Link, we got a problem. Hurry up. Let's go figure out what's going on. So now you see Princess, who's in here with the red eyes. It looks like that shadowy princess that was around earlier in the background. And it looks like she's about to attack Mario in his sleep. And she's stopped. And she's a robot. Ta-da. So the bad guy's working with Dr. Wily. And it's not actually Bowser. In Chapter 1. So, I think at this point I still wanted it to be Kefka. But, as it turns out, we'll find here in a second what's going on with that. But moving on, we had some sketchbook stuff, and this here is a thing that I drew a long time ago. I wanted to make this like purple and black Princess Peach, like an EGL Gothic Lolita style Princess Peach with black hair and stuff. And I was able to work this concept in later, and I was going to push it a little bit further than I did. But later on, when the bad guy Victor Damien has the princess is at his castle. He gets her a new dress, and it's a purple dress, so which is intended to be a callback to this little reference here. And another cringy little thing that I've actually taken off of my DeviantArt, but this is pretty terrible proportions and bad drawing, and I am not at all proud of that drawing. But, Mommy, what's fan service? Alright, Chapter 2, moving along. Dr. Light's roboticist and cosmetic surgeon, a bench in the park, and a holding cell. Everyone is asking one question: what the hell is going on here? So I tried to make everything crazy all up front. So we do some research and find out that yes, she is the princess for all intents and purposes because her brainwaves match, but she is was remotely controlled and taken over, so she's actually a robot. Hey, look, more fan service. Yeah, I'm terrible at that. See, I was really trying to be consistent with updates and more so with number of pages than quality updates. Yeah, so there's a lot of filler throughout here. Eventually I just got bored with it, and instead of doing filler, I just didn't do the comic. So, here you go. Intel inside. Princess Peach is a robot. And because this is a slave crown, she goes to her ex-Locke, who happens to know about these kind of things, and says, hey, this is an original imperial slave crown, not something made by somebody with some bootleg plans from the internet, but this is either somebody trying to send a message or somebody who is tied to the originals. So here's another cool thing. I wish they could do something like this in Zelda. I haven't played the more recent ones. I know that they have some better armor in like the one on I can't even remember the name of the games. I'm so out of touch with video games. It is terrible. It is terrible. Skyward Sword was the last Zelda I played. But yeah, the new one, the one on the Wii, not Wii, the one on the Switch. I haven't played that yet, but I think I've seen some where he's wearing armor in that. Continuing along. Here, through the next couple things, is just basically a graphic novel recreation of the ending of Final Fantasy III, which was not entirely necessary for me to do because most of my target audience had probably played Final Fantasy III. But for the few that hadn't, I wanted to include the content from the game as much as I could to show what the backstory of Kefka was. So there's like, are you sure it couldn't be Kefka? And so this is where I flipped the thing and said, yeah, I don't want it to be Kefka. Even though I showed a picture of Kefka and everybody thinks it's Kefka, I wanted to. I was actually on the pagoda somebody said they knew it was Kefka because of the sprite. And that's why I made this comic and put this in here. There's no possible way in heaven or hell that Kefka is the villain you're looking for. So, I forget who said that, but on the Pixel Pagoda, the old forum that we had shared between me and a couple other sprite comics, somebody said it was Kefka. But as we're moving along, we have the Church of Cory, which nobody knows what it is, but it is a cult. More filler. Yeah, he says he doesn't remember why or what happened, but he knows that the Prince of Dahlem has access that he didn't. So there's a lot of stuff in the riches of the vaults that he has access to that others don't, including, you know, Pharaoh Tomb masks and stuff from Burger King and Indiana Jones props. And this, I think, was .hack. Yeah. Yay! Here's a nice little shout out to my fellow sprite comic aficionados there on the Pixel Pagoda. I honestly don't remember everybody's name, so I'm not even going to start talking and try to name them. But yeah. A lot of I called out for people. I was like, I'm going to have a scene in a prison. If you want just a quick sprite of yourself in there in the background, feel free to send it to me and I'll give it to you. And that's everybody that did it. So, yeah, Bowser wants to get away from the freaks in the Pixel Pagoda. And he gets out and gets angry. And they're all like, you know, cops don't give a shit what happens. So they just stand off to the side. But they're like apologizing. And we're like, yeah, I guess it makes sense. No harm done. Hey, this is some filler with the fake box art. Oh yeah, yeah. Honestly, I forgot that this was still had robertart.net. When I was in high school, the first domain name I ever registered for myself was robertart.net, and I registered that with the same web hosting company that hosted 8-Bit Theater, and it was a very expensive web host compared to what I'm paying for now. But I had eventually dropped them and lost that domain name, and who cares, you know, whatever. robertlynch.com is a lot better anyway. But I like the box art even with the fake weathering. Hey, some more, sorry, but it's filler again. And here's, again, me trying to do more by way of actual number of comics than quantity or the quality of content. So, this is from a live-action Sailor Moon series, which I have a little reference here for. It says Bushijo Senshi Sailor Moon, which is Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. It's the live-action version. And I was watching that at the time when I made this comic, so that's why that was referenced. So he's like, yep, here's what's going on. Let's go back to the headquarters and we will check in with that Church of Cory later. Everybody comes back and they get a call. Holy shit! We're going in. Because Luigi's in there and they know it's a trap now, but they're going to go in anyway. And here's your Matrix parody that I was setting up since like the third comic. But yeah, you have any metallic or magical items. This is just basically a complete rip-off of the scene from The Matrix. But I'm really proud of it because it looked really good at the time. I got those nice reflections on the floors. But I even threw in the gift shop in the background that nobody ever bought anything from. So everything's going on, and then they decide to come in. But Bowser does not. More Matrix parody. I got Robo Princess doing backflips and shit. Says whether I'm the real princess or not, Luigi's my friend, and that tells you everything you need to know. She is like, I'm just gonna fuck these guys up. and they all do. And I actually turned this design here into another T-shirt that I just called Sanguine, which I had him off to the side with blood spraying up like that, and nobody ever bought that either. So, yeah. So Princess, yeah. Jen Taylor is the voice actress who did the voice of Princess Peach. So she said sometimes it's hard for me to go out in public without hassle, so I use a fake name, and I use the real name of the real actress. How about just Princess? How about just Peach instead of Princess? So, last little ding, reference to the Matrix. Lord of the Ring, that's a stupid fucking joke. This is a filler comic by Rick Goranson of ROTSC Comic, which probably has been closed up by now. TSC. Yeah, he's gone too. All the Sprite comic authors have gone. But he did this for me and was like, hey, Donkey Kong actually can talk, but your contract doesn't let you. I had some filler because I forget what I was doing. I was like going on vacation or something, and I needed a couple days. And so I had some guys make some comics, including Japan the Man, who I don't really want to talk about, but I know I'm going to have to address in a little bit here. So she also left me a comic, and so we move along, and I'll address her later. That's a different issue. But so move along, yeah, more costume play. Biggs and Wedge. Feels great to be back in the Imperial uniform, but then they get their heads cracked in. Another filler. They don't know that they're each other. But that he's like, oh shit, yeah, I could tell that was Chrono because of the way you swing your sword, because you are terrible. And there's some stairs. See, this is the thing about doing it as a 3D comic or doing a 2D comic, is you could say, hey, there's stairs over here. How did you miss those stairs? And of course we get our Final Fantasy VII references in. But they get in here and think it's them again and change back and blah, 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 blah. So, moving along. Here we go. Turning point of the comic. Greetings, congratulations on your mission. The world as you know it is over. It's basically Kefka with black hair. What the fuck? I thought Kefka was dead. You're right. I'm not Kefka. I worship him like a god, though, because he thought of himself as such. So, everybody's freaking out. Mega Man says, hey, there's the sewer there, we can get out. Let's blast through the wall if we connect our power, and yeah, don't worry about it, I've been down here before. Nice little Super Mario Brothers reference. And fossils. And I forget what I made her ringtone. I don't know. Anyway, everybody gets out. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it says boom. I get to mess with Craig again. And then everybody's phone goes off, and oh no, 2 more princesses are missing. So now, instead of just the 1, it's 2. So, and here we go. At least I explained my lack of comics this time. I was like, hey, I'm going to be a while. So, Chapter 3. I think Chapter 3 and onward is really about where the comic picked up its best steam as the narrative kind of developed. Because they're heading off now, and they're going to try to meet with the kings and deal with what's going on and find out what's going on, and everybody comes back and has a fucking meeting, and ta-da, it's an empty chest, but it got the Hades blade. this is something that I was going to pull in later. And the Hades blade was supposed to be like a key. And it was supposed to be a key to a gateway to the underworld, basically, where you could, like, swap a human life, a human soul for a human soul, basically. You wanted to trade one for one. And he was going to try to bring Kefka back. So that's what the thing was. The crypt they needed to build was going to be in 4 pieces. So this narratively ends up being very similar to the act break in like any Zelda game, you know, like where you got to get the first bits of the couple bits of the 3 things at first, and then something happens and you got the 7 things later. So that was meant to be like a narrative act break, and then there was going to be each of these quest lines, each of these chapters from then on was going to be finding one of the different pieces of the gate, trying to stop the bad guy from getting it. So we move along, and they were going to try to get more information, and one person was going to try to go to Hyrule and get the gate. So here we go. Forest scene. Let me take off my mask and kiss you because I'm forcing a romantic subplot in here. So it's moving along. Yeah, and in retrospect, implying that Chrono and Samus had sex on the first date is also probably problematic in terms of Samus's characterization. And again, if I was going to go back and do it again, I would do it differently. So here's a filler, and I was doing my finals for what would 2007 have been my junior year of college. My professor, Lansford Holness, here, is a black British guy, and he basically was built like that. So we used that character and a friend of mine who I don't know how often or if at all I ever mentioned her again, but that's Valerie. She was my best man at my wedding, and I think I've referenced her in some other things. And if you're on my DeviantArt page, you've probably seen her tits in some of my photography. So anyway, this was a call for some more guest comics, and I got some fun little guest comics in here, where we had this one here with Heroes Inc. versus Marvel, or versus DC versus Marvel. This looked like it could have been a fun little side plot or something, and I don't even know what happened with it. Yeah, some crazy stuff going on. But yeah. Okay, back to my content. Yeah, this is your I can kill you with my brain moment. Robo Peach telling Bowser to just go and fuck himself because he's not gonna be able to do anything to him anymore. So we finally made it, the longest 2 weeks of my life. And this is ironic because this is the first time I had 2 weeks of comic being interrupted. Prior to that, I had always had at least 1 comic a week. But then you come back to now and it's been like 3 years. So, nice little bit of irony. Yeah, so welcome to the Mushroom Kingdom. Mushroom Kingdom is an advanced technological and modern society based on stock photos, mostly. So I get to the Church of Corey, and it is Corey Feldman, who I don't know why. I just thought, why would you pick anybody else for mind washing people with? I don't know. It just seemed like a funny bit. So here you go. Strago's got to be like I'm gonna rip the shit out of you because he's in front of his buds and doesn't want to give away that he's not really opposed to him. So you got your holy war here, and this was a fun little scene. That was another one. This was actually the first one I used a reference from a game to make the 3D model. The other one was that 7-Eleven. I made that of my own accord. This one was from the game, and I ended up later doing the same thing in a couple other places too. But yeah, they're all in the church, and they do some fighting around. Oh, okay, here we go. Let me address the, I guess, elephant in the room. Can I zoom in on this? This comic here, the supersized breaking news special edition, hell has frozen over. And I made a nice funny joke of it because everybody knows Robert's a loser and doesn't have any friends. But this is where I got engaged the first time. So yeah. Anyway, this comic is celebratory of the first time I got engaged to the person known on forums as Japan the Man. I'm not gonna go into like a whole lot about this, but we'll just say the relationship ended less than amicably. So that's why there's actually a notice on Heroes Inc. on the page that has this comic on it that says please disregard. So I have no contact with her and have not in a long time, so we'll just forget about that and move along. So alright, sorry about that. I had to pause that again. So moving along, we had our fight scene here and a nice little Chrono Trigger style attack with the result of everybody being pretty brutally murdered. And then you find out the Locke and Locke and Dude were friends the whole time. So the Cult of Kefka. Back in Final Fantasy III, basically, there was this Cult of Kefka that he actually was in, the Strago, and you had to rescue him from during the thing. So he knows who this guy is, and this guy, before the fall of the Empire, was a scientist who worked on that, and he was apparently, according to my storyline at least, he was the guy who invented the slave crowns, so he knows about that. But he completely believed in Kefka and everything he stood for, so point is they're looking for this thing called the Trivium Cipher, which he stole from them because the spell has to be translated using that. And this is actually an algorithm, and I forget exactly what the algorithm is, but the text around it is just a couple of funny fonts that I found. But yeah, so they need that cipher thing to translate the blade, and then they need the blade, and then they need the arch. And so Dude's like, okay, if you let me get 50% work, and I'll help you. So here's one actually I am pretty proud of. This is filler, but it's filler I'm really proud of because if you ever watched the 300 trailer, the movie trailer, this is pretty much like a frame for frame perfect remake of the trailer using the sprites and everything. And I thought this one was really, I mean, as far as filler goes, pretty good. But anyway, they decide to move along, and so he says, here, everybody drink the Kool-Aid and we'll be ready to go. Meanwhile, other team, went over here to Hyrule. They're floating over the mysterious woods from Link to the Past, which is what references are here for. Supposed to follow a song, or up, down, left, left, follow a monkey. All of those are right depending on blah, 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 blah. They're like, wait, I heard it. So they come up in here and find Magus and a whole bunch of Imperial troops. And instead of monologuing, he's just like, kill them. And here we go. This is actually some very relatable material from my earlier comics. It took so long to render anything using my old computer because it was just so slow. I mean, my new computer, I got like 32 gigs of RAM and a 8 gig graphics card and 8 core processor, and it's ridiculous how much better it is than the computer I had been using. But we go ahead and get another 3D scene, which I've actually taken the scene and rendered it a couple of times. I have the way it is in the comic here, and then I made a render of it as like a wallpaper one time, which is a little cleaner. And this picture doesn't look like it makes a lot of sense, but like it's supposed to be like freeze frame of him shooting. I think if the balls were like flying, it would have looked a little better, but it looks like they're casting spells instead. But anyway, Magus has the big bad sword, and turns out the sword can bring zombies to life. So you can bring things to life if you don't have a soul. It'll just bring the body to life. That's how that works. And that drawing is just terrible, and I regret having done it in this picture. But everybody's attacking the zombies, and they keep going down. So Mario sends him a text message which plays the Song of Light from Legend of Zelda, which makes all the zombies stop, and he attacks the sword, kills the zombies, tosses it into the thing, and the thing that holds the Master Sword actually also fit the thing with the other sword, and ta-da, that's how it all works. So, coming along, they get the piece of the Hades Gate, and you can see here, like, I was even trying to make like an explanation for, like, yeah, if you had the Master Sword, it only goes to here, so it doesn't go down and hit the switch, but if you put the Hades blade in, it'll just go all the way down, and blah blah blah. Anyway, all you just need is a thin shiv to pop it open. And Luigi getting his butt handed to him again by somebody. So he found another thing. It says Treasure of the Guardian King, meaning it's in the royal treasury of Guardia. So that's where they're going now. Everybody's going to regroup at the castle. And Luigi is all like, I think I just need some rest. I've got to go find myself. I need to find my own path, because he's upset that he got his butt handed to him again. But I can't blame him. He's been in his brother's shadow forever. And this is a thread that I really wanted to explore, like, quite a bit. And I did, to some degree, later. So, anyway, earlier, another joke with Craig getting killed. And, this is actually a cool concept. But I think I objectified the main leads a little too much. Anyway, the whole story is being explained and discussed, and hey, check it out. The one of the relics, including this carved stone that sounds like a piece of the gate, was stolen 20 years ago. Hey, time travel? And I had a whole panel here basically explaining why we shouldn't be able to do this more than once. And it boils down mostly to, I don't want it to become an overused plot device. And so we only have so many people that can fit inside the epic, so they decide to have just Mario and Chrono, and Link. And they go back in time, and this actually even way before I started watching Doctor Who, that I put the Doctor Who reference into rush hour traffic in the 80s. But yeah, come back here, and it's all 80s all the time. I tried to make just enough subtle changes in here that, like, even though it's pretty much the same sprites, it's obviously it's in the 80s. So, like, the guards are wearing green uniforms instead of the blue that were in the thing, and I think I changed some of the styles on some of the furniture or something too. But anyway, yeah. So what was Mario doing at this time? I wonder what Mario was doing in 1984 or 85. And this was right after he was popular, so everybody thinks he's all popular. That's what this whole thing was too. Can I have your autograph, Mario? You're the best. So the real Mario, who was much younger at the time, was at some club in the Mushroom Kingdom, snorting coke off hookers' asses, which is what everybody did in the 80s apparently. So anyway, Chrono, I've been, the way I played Chrono, or not played Chrono, the way I wrote Chrono was kind of like a high charisma, low intel. Like he can BS his way into things and convince people of stuff, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. So kind of Star-Lordy like in his attitudes. But anyway, at this point they think this is the Mario from their time, and he's doing a secret undercover thing to find out what's going on with the plot to rob the treasury. And oh, here's some filler. Spore was a fun game. I think it could have been better. It was. I think they tried to do too much with the separate different levels instead of focusing enough on one level or something. I don't know. They seemed like mini games and they didn't feel like a real game. But it was fun. Captain Cestus. Oh shit. That's not good, because this was right around the time Chrono's parents were conceiving him. Wink wink. Okay. And here's another plot line that I wanted to drag into later. I had Dr. Light and Dr. Wily coming in here because they heard about a robotics project. They said a mechanical man tending a forest around here, which is a reference to Robo in one of the side quests you can do in the game in Chrono Trigger. So it's implied that he directs them to where Robo is, which is in this church in Guardia. But I was going to have a whole thread here of how one of the things that Dr. Wily found when they were examining Robo was some records of a thing called the Chronicles of Sergei, which itself would then be a reference to the game Chrono Cross for PlayStation. Chrono Cross was not a direct sequel in that it didn't have the same characters, directly. Although the same characters did show up, kind of, I think, like these dream sequences or like kids on the beach or whatever. But anyway, Magus shows up as a character in Chrono. Well, there was this little interlude game that was called I forget what it was called, but it was like a text-based thing that was how what happened to Magus after Chrono Trigger. But then he shows back up as another character in Chrono Cross because he found his little sister that was destroyed by Lavos, or his big sister that was destroyed by Lavos later on. So that is something. I'm just going to show one quick comic from way further up. That's what this comic is referring to here. I don't know why the Windows default doesn't open the picture very well. Anyway, That's what he said. He knows where Scala is. I think that's all I need to know. All I need to say. This is up in the 500s, so I'll get back to that. But I want to tie this in and say that the reason why they know where Scala is because of the information from the Chronicles of Sergei in Robo's databanks, because Robo is from the future of Chrono Trigger, and Chrono Trigger's future includes Chrono Cross, which should have records in Robo. Anyway, it was just a little thing I was gonna like try to tie some loose ends together and say Dr. Wily is feeding him information, and that's part of that. So, going on, this is Chrono's dad, and I just tried to make it, regular soldier with Chrono's color palette. So, he thinks that is Chrono's dad right off because he has the same outfit, and I was gonna at some point, make this tunic handed down to him because this is who Chrono thinks his father is, and who Chrono was raised by. So that's why Chrono's avoiding him. He doesn't want to cause any weird predestination paradoxes. But anyway, they butt heads and decide to work on guarding the castle armor, or not armory, the castle treasury. And they find some other fun things in here, including missing Watergate tapes and missing unfinished symphonies. And they move along and find hidden behind this unbelievably flamboyant shale the Hades Gate. And he says, hey, put that back. I don't want to hear your ba-ba-ba-ba music, because we are here to keep it from being stolen and not to steal it ourselves. Which, I think if anybody's ever watched a movie involving time travel, you know where this is going. So, anyway, yeah, so they say, here's the stuff that's going on. You must be Chrono. And Link ends up meeting this generic looking clerk at the general goods store, and falling in love at first sight kind of thing, and she's like, remind me to avoid emotional entanglement. So he doesn't want to do that. Anyway, D.H. the Chancellor gave him some dark hair. So they were setting up this area for stage and ball and everything, because they wanted to have stuff going on. And I tried to imply here this was from Oedipus Rex, as my fate to defile my mother's bed. I was kind of imply, like, I was trying to make people wonder whether or not it was going to be Chrono, who's his own father, or whether it was Link. But that was just kind of a lost leader there. He does know a band called the Returners, but they won't have any openings for 20 years. It's just a fun little 3D picture I drew. And swapping shifts, waiting for... And I actually have a watch like this. I made one. Took an old watch apart and printed a label. It didn't work very well, but it was cool looking. So the lady brought him some dinner. Thanks. Hey, I remember you. Because they work part-time. If you mustn't interfere with the past. Don't do anything that affects anything, unless it turns out you were supposed to do it. In which case, for the love of God, don't not do it. Wise words of Dr. Farnsworth. And so he's thinking, maybe I'm supposed to hook up with her. Because, Gina, which I don't think actually was listed in the game as her name. I had to find it in some apocryphal sources what Chrono's mom's name was. And again, here's some more shitty drawings of mine. I think what I did on this was, it was a April Fool's joke. I was going to say, hey, this is the comic from now on. Which is terrible. And then I actually made a spaghetti recipe. I think there's this filler coming up with that spaghetti sauce in it. But yeah, Chrono talking about time travel paradoxes, and did you even bother to read my doctoral thesis? So Chrono's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. But he's talking about predestination paradoxes, and because of Rufus's rules were written before the Novikov self-consistency principle was proven, which says that if something you do would give rise to a paradox, then the probability of that event is zero. And that's actually like a real philosophical thing that somebody had written up, this Novikov guy. But the way I was using it was basically, if you go back in time and you change something, the universe corrects itself. So so anyway, since they know that the gate piece can't be stolen, or can't be prevented from being stolen, they can find out who stole it, is their plan here. And they still haven't quite figured out where it's going, but I've got a whole week of shenanigans with Link and their mom, Link and Chrono's mom, and this whole week here was I uploaded it one day each, or one comic each day of the week as like a special thing that I did. So you got Mario signing autographs. That's actually Shigeru Miyamoto's signature. Dude talking to Luca's mom, or Luca's dad, and says, "Hey, you should settle down and have some kids." But then there's some more bonding time and all that. Just 80s references and Saturday. Here we go. They finally figured it out. It's a predestination paradox. We're the thieves. We should have known. There's no clues to the perpetrator. If we don't steal the gate, the universe will implode, or something like that. So, cocktail napkin plan, which I actually drew on a cocktail napkin. We go back into, or we have Mario do a distraction, and while they steal the gate piece, and then they bust it forward into the future. And unfortunately, the lead singer of the band went out for a smoke and injured his hand. Will be short. And here we go. I have a special sprite of Mario with one eyebrow raised, saying seriously, because it's just that obvious of a bad Back to the Future parody. So, here's your Back to the Future parody, your obligatory Back to the Future parody in any time travel related comic. Anybody a fan of Rick Astley? No? Good. Which is funny, because this was like 10 years ago, and just recently I got rickrolled again. It just keeps going. What somebody did was share a link to YouTube, and that said, after like 15 years, the original Rick Astley video was taken down, and I clicked the link to see if it was taken down, and I got rickrolled. So, I don't know. I'm getting off track. I'm sorry, Robert. Stick to one thing. Remember, that's what we need to do. So, here we go. Here's an oldie but a goodie. Start with the main chord progression and come in light on, amp it up on the chorus. Watch the changes. And this is Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden. Lyrics and everything are by Chris Cornell. So, you got this guy watching from the side here say, "It's your cousin Marvin Cornell. Here's the new sound you're looking for." And then implying, at least in this universe, that Mario's predestination paradox led to the invention of grunge music. So, anyway, moving along. We have Mario knocking out some guards, Link knocking out some guards, getting the piece of the Hades gate, and running into Chrono's dad. "Oh shit, I wasn't expecting you so soon." And he had to cut his way through, because it was the only way out. Got no time to explain. Here's enough money to have your dream house. So, Chrono. I got the gate piece. We're heading out now. I'd love to stay. So, this scene, I actually have a couple little things in, little details that are great that I'd like to point out. This here is I think an old computer speaker, and I had like a button from a fucking old D-pad controller. I actually burned the button to have it look like it was burned out, and took a photo of it to put it in here. And then I took a photo of it without it burned before and put that in later. But the flux capacitor isn't fluxing because the fusion coupling is burned out. So he has to go and write a note to himself because he knows he's going to get this shell later in the game of Chrono Trigger, which is 15 years from now. If the coupling doesn't need replaced, then I don't need to come here and leave myself the note. So, time paradox duplicate chrono is instantly created. So, according to this comic, the actual chrono, the real chrono, is the one that gets stuck in 1985. And the chrono that everybody else deals with, that is chrono the rest of the game, is the time paradox duplicate. So, anyway, they're all ready to go. Of course I changed the plasma coupling. I had a note, I had a note to do it. I don't know, something fishy's going on. So, they fly off. And you can see here, there's a little fuzzy in the background, Chrono, trying to run and catch up to him, and they zoom back to the 2004 time frame of the comic. Because they're playing, what is that? Maroon 5. So welcome back. We did get the gate piece. So let's rest up. End chapter 4, and Link meets Chrono's mom. Is like, oh my god, I missed you. It's Chrono, this is your father. So anyway, interlude viewpoints. We've got alternate Chrono, or original Chrono, being chased by guards and arrested. Now Luigi is walking away, and he comes across the theater playing the movie Two Brothers, which I just thought was the stupidest kind of reference for this is like laying on the melodrama extra thick. And then I did some filler for market research because I was thinking I could probably print some t-shirts. I could get some t-shirts ordered and printed. And in 2009, I think that was actually before I had started working at a screen printing t-shirt shop, so I could have even gotten them cheaper. But I was trying to test the market and see if anybody wanted to buy some t-shirts, because I was really trying to, make a living off of comic booking, but it didn't work. But let's move along. Comic chapter 5. The music there, I think, is just some like Beethoven sonata or something. The cell is opened and she's allowed to go up, and the other princesses are there that she has met in the past, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry about the treatment. You weren't supposed to be a prisoner. It was a miscommunication. And she apparently will accept that explanation. Now, the interesting thing here that I don't think I ever explained on it too much, but I wanted to start hinting at that the crowns that they're wearing are like very low-level slave crowns. They're not slave crowns that force you to do a thing like the ones that you used on Pooh, but these are more like hypnosis influence crowns that his constant his flattery and stuff would go over more well with them, and they would think he's on their side. So he's basically just trying to kind of brainwash him. But yeah, I guess she accepts this apology. We move on, and explain through a couple of pictures that Chrono has Link to blame for his life. So, Link is Chrono's dad biologically, and Kalos is Chronos' dad in terms of, who he thinks his dad is. And, but the original Chrono that is now in 1985 doesn't know this because this wasn't revealed to him. See, now this one isn't too bad. This one is... I was drawing it, but I made it look like it was crappy intentionally. So, anyway, this is where Link decides, hey, this is unacceptable. I don't care. I'm going to do things my way because I'm a lone wolf. And because Chrono is just finding out that's his dad, he's going to run off. And Mega Man agrees with Link, and Pooh decides to join him to be able to report back. Everybody else says they're going to stay because they only want the money, and that's what they're there for. So, the ancient agar, I don't know, it's something Latin for a type of mushroom, says fungus house roots, meaning it's in the castle of the Toad Town core. So this is the they've got 2 gate pieces, and one is supposed to be in the castle. So let's see, Team 2, I guess, they need to get a ship since Team 1 with Mario went off to Mushroom Kingdom again. So, as it turns out, that the ship running operation in my game was run by Chrono's mom, and that's how she was independently wealthy enough to own her own house when there's only like two houses in town. So she gives him a boat to get there, and I got Samus here pining away because she's sad about it, and she thinks he's betraying the team, betraying her, and whatever. Luigi, story of his continuation, getting his ass kicked by random punks in the street from River City Ransom. Punched in the face, knocked to the ground, shit kicked out of him, and saved by a mysterious stranger in full body armor that looks like a soldier from Chrono Trigger. And honestly, I think anybody who's paid any attention to the tropes that I've been slinging out would have been able to figure out this, but here's the official confirmation for anybody that was questioning it. But Castor here is Chrono. Castor is the Chrono that was stuck in 1985. He aged along through his story and worked on becoming the best swordsman around, and comes back to the team by way of training Luigi. So, back in 1985, we got another trial scene. They send him to in prison and indentured servitude in the military, and so that sets him up for working with his dad again, or the guy who thinks he's his dad. Back in the present, we have the main Mario team getting signal marker saying that Mushroom Kingdom is got a problem going on, and they're attacked. And this is the first time you see our mysterious shadowy figure. Although, back when I was updating this regularly, we had those like vote for this comic top lists, and you could post like filler, or you could post like extra content and stuff to try to get people to vote for it. And one of the things that I had put on there was a sketch of Mario and Meta Knight and Mario saying "It's you," and Meta Knight is like blurred out because I wanted to make it look like he wasn't really, like, it's obvious it's Meta Knight, but I wanted to make it look like I was trying to hide it. But yeah, so Meta Knight and Toad here watched the thing go down, and oh yeah, here's a fun little thing I did. That was a real thing that I did and wasted a lot of money on. Well, not a lot of money, $10, and it lasted a while. I think the red faded out though. So they said we need to get out of here before whoever shot us down comes to finish the job, and they don't know who is that. And these guys come in and shit's going down. You have another group of mushroom heads coming and saying, "Hey, everything's hitting the fan." And they shoot missiles at them. Unfortunately, no. So, all this attacks and stuff, all this chaos. Challenger approaches, and you find out who it is. Meta Knight. His quest has led him to the headquarters on the day of its destruction. They watched. He was trying to bring DDD to justice. That's what his whole thing was. He was going to try to bring DDD to justice. And this is a plot that I set up. It's a little bit later. It's basically in this universe, King DDD is the person responsible for the genocide of Kirby's people, and that's why there's only one pink Kirby guy, and Meta Knight and Kirby are the last remaining members of the Star Soldiers, or whatever they were called. I got it referenced later. I'll explain a little bit more, but I wanted to have like this whole nefarious thing going on in the background, and so Toad gets tied up, put in the gift shop where nobody's going to look for him because nobody ever looks in the gift shop. Meta Knight finds the aftermath of the battle that was earlier and saves Toad and says there's a bomb, it's going to blow up, and he saves him and it explodes, and now Toad has got a wicked cool eye patch. So you stumbled into the middle of a civil war being waged between the legitimate recognized government of the Mushroom Kingdom and us, the Spore Liberation Army. So, headquartered in the basement of a sex shop, I guess. They're going to storm the castle. So let's cut back to the other team. Link is off trying to find information about Magus. And he's doing the whole, I'll break your fingers one at a time bit. I think that's more characteristic of Link here than the scene that was similar earlier with Mario. So they need to get some help from Luca, who I implied is, well, I didn't imply, I just showed she is in a lesbian relationship with the shopkeeper. So Luca comes here and has a techno boner for Mega Man. So if you're done fondling my friend, she goes all into the Matrix and looking for databases on stuff of where Magus is, and these databases are just like is the Chrono Trigger Wikipedia page and the Square Enix main page and a Google image search for Magus. I think this was a page of like general public webcams, like security cams somewhere. So she's all like, click, 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 I'm in. Finds that Magus was flying around in the Blackbird that he's resurrected at a airfield near Hyrule. So he's using it as a mobile command center, and if we could find it, we will be able to storm it. We can't use the Epic because it needs an overhaul. And He says, if you need wings, if you don't care about style, I know someone who can help. Um, and again, the Luigi story I really wanted to pick up and turn him into like this full samurai. I think one of the last filler things I made before I stopped updating completely was a drawing of Luigi as a samurai, and that's kind of where I was going with it. And then one quick shot to 1986, which he's been in here in the military, and he says he wants to be in the military, just keep working with his dad. I guess they're just out clearing bandits or something here. But yeah, you got your some more brainwashing, and I like this. I really like how I have this written out. Like, whenever Bowser kidnapped me, I was always treated well, but Mario would rush in like a knight in shining overalls. Is that really the issue, that he's taking his time, or that he let you get kidnapped again, like he always does? He's never there when you need him. How could you possibly put your faith in someone like that? Like, really hardcore drilling it into her, like, hey, you need to side with somebody else. And that was the whole point. So, Robo Peach, with the soldiers of the Mushroom Kingdom, are giving a speech saying, we've been drafted now, and we're going to kick the tires and light the fires, so to speak. Stealing all the motivational speeches I can. Moving along, Kirby is being shown to say, oh, he got his family murdered. It'd be a nice bonus. And the wings that they get being Pilot Wings, which Pilot Wings was one of my favorite games as a kid. When I was playing the Super Nintendo, I had Pilot Wings, and I could never actually like get past the helicopter level at the end. It was like a real mission, but everything else was pretty fun about that game, and I liked the jetpack level of it the best. So anyway, we're moving on to the next morning, getting ready to launch the attack. And this is one of my most favorite scenes from Heroes Inc. that I made, was this here. I modeled this off of the Mushroom Kingdom area in Super Mario RPG, which was on these kind of tiered levels, and it wasn't actually 3D, it was isometric, but it was easy to convert it into 3D. So the castle here on the outside and on the inside did all in 3D, and did like frame for frame based, or pixel for pixel approximate size to the characters, which ended up being a little snug, I think, at times with the DDD, because he's pretty big. Just saying, hey, we got a problem. Our munitions factory has been attacked, and I got some nice Metal Slug edits in here. And another April Fool's joke, of course. There's absolutely no fucking way Heroes Inc. is ever going to get a print edition. Zero chance of that. I mean, anybody that thinks that could ever happen would be, like, completely lying, because there's so much crap that I've stolen from so many people to make this as a parody, and that's the only way I can keep on the good side of copyright law, is by fair use doctrine. So, moving along, we got the Royal Guards, and we got the gate, and there's no way they can get in through the gate, unless, of course, they have a way in from the air, which this was a very difficult model to get a hold of. Not only did I have to find a copy of Smash Brothers Melee, I had to find an emulator that I could use to run Smash Brothers Melee, and I had to find a what was it? It was like a 3D, a DirectX capture thing, and so it like captured the models in a scene that are being rendered and piped through, and it was an arduous process to get that model, but it turned out pretty good once I actually got it done. And now I could probably go back and find that same model online somewhere because there's so many places to get kind of free resources. I mean, this is even just 10 years ago, but we got a lot more resources now in 3D stuff than we did back then. Uh, I'd probably also use Blender instead of 3D Studio just because um, Blender I could keep updated and I had to use the same old version of 3D Studio for years. But yeah, we're coming along very nicely. We got the airdrop. Everybody poofs in with parachutes. Here's a filler idea. I thought this would be pretty cool. Mushroom Kingdom Online, like a MMORPG, but I guess MMORPGs are kind of falling by the wayside now as opposed to other multiplayer experiences like Battle Royale and stuff. I could see a Battle Royale Mario more likely than a Mushroom Kingdom Online, but just I thought it would have been cool if you could go in and play as either a human or a Koopa or a mushroom person and change your appearance and skills and all that stuff, and I don't know, whatever. So right on schedule, we got the guys coming in, and they think the princess is here. Oh no, it's not the princess. Do I gotta do everything myself? And she shoots her in the face, or he shoots her in the face, and she gets this cool Terminator Kano look. So more. This is actually Bushido stuff that I found somewhere online. Don't exactly remember where it was, but I think I put it in the comments on the page. Chateau Hadoken. That was from a still life render that I did one time. That was pretty cool. But yeah, you can see in his castle, this whole thing is like trying to show his hospitality for her. He's getting her dresses. He's being nice to her. It's not safe in the Mushroom Kingdom. Didn't you hear about this uprising that's going on? Which I didn't explicitly say anything about it, but I really wanted to make it look like he's pulling the strings behind the scene all the time on everything. Like, the whole uprising was specifically to make the princess think it's not safe. And I don't remember if I quite got that point out yet in the comic, but you got our pilot wings plane. This was a biplane model that I found on, I think, Turbo Squid or something, and slapped the pilot wings logo on it. But this is probably my favorite sequence in all of Heroes Inc. is the whole thing with the plane through the Blackbird. So back in 1986, Chrono's dad, quote unquote, tells him that, hey, my girlfriend is pregnant, and thanks to that inheritance, we're putting on a house, a down payment on a house. We're gonna get married, and I'd like you to be my best man, and I'm gonna name you my kid after you. So we set up a paradox of Chrono is named after himself, which makes sense since his name means time. Yeah, so back to Mushroom Kingdom. You'd make a great Kano for Mortal Kombat. So, the decoy to trick us. Everyone get to cover. Everybody's fought off with magic and guns and tied up and dealt with. I'm glad nobody had to die, is what she says. So we got a score to settle. It's no time to waste. And this, actually, was probably the last comic before my attempted reboot back in 2012. Back in 2012, I was doing this whole self-improvement kick, too, that didn't really pan out, but I was trying to get back to working on my comics and back to working on art and stuff. But anyway, I made a filler comic saying, have you seen this guy? He was supposed to be going over to, D13 comic. There's another thing to have a pin put into. D13 comic, Department 13, that's something that I had put like 5 pages up online and forgotten about. because I had basically not been able to do anything with it because it's CG and my computer keeps crashing. But I'm not going to be doing anything with that now, obviously because I'm not doing comics, but that is some content that I will probably be working with in game format. I would like to see Department 13, the game. I think that whole post-apocalyptic world is something that could be explored there. But anyway, oh hey, and here's a fun thing. This photo of me is a picture of me at my old job, because I can see where I am there. I was at a framing shop. And then here's the reboot that I tried to do, because I tried to make it a bigger image, wider image, so it would fit better with modern browsers. I used a different font and cleaned it up. So this is my actual house. This is a photo of my house. I got rid of the numbers, so just for safety's sake, you know. But I've got my my guys coming in here and coming to meet me in the backyard, and I'm working on my motorcycle, which still doesn't run. And the garage, looking back at this, the garage looks like it's in really great shape by comparison, because the roof has got a lot of holes in it now. Some of this whole batch of trees up here ripped through the roof, just scratching up the roof, and now it's basically a skylight. So, but the neighbors cut down that whole thing of trees and put a fence up there. So, anyway, that's a side story, not really related to this. Made it look like I'm working on a motorcycle when that motorcycle's still sitting in storage, because things being what they are, I don't have the money to fix things and work on things and all kinds of stuff. And using an old YouTube grab that I think that YouTube video I've taken offline too. 2004. You're so fresh and young out of high school. Yeah, that's true. I am a jaded old man now. I've always had a soft spot for lost causes. Let me take care of something and let's do this. But that was 2014. That was the same year my daughter was born, which I have a picture of her on my page announcing when she was born. But not surprisingly, that has not increased, at least, my availability of time for working on projects. So, but yeah, that was the point where I tried to get back on it and let's do this thing, and let's Heroes Inc. is back, yay! And everybody had to work at stuff, and like, yeah, we're setting up the effects shop for the next model, which is funny because this is a 3D model that I made based on a 2D model in a game, and the 3D model I rendered and put into a photo scene to look like a prop, a physical prop in a 3D scene. It's a lot of little meta layers in this. So, and this was cool because it's just like every comic. But here, this one is, what is this? $4.91. $4.91. I'm gonna just keep. Well, $40.91 and a half actually is what I was, because that $4.91 was the one with all the pictures on it. This is a nice little starting point to pick back up on the story, where I had been trying to, reboot it. Just kind of telling the story of how Mario's group was at Mushroom Kingdom, and Link's with going after Magus, and Luigi's going samurai-ing, and Princess is at Castle being brainwashed, and 80s time paradox duplicate Chrono. Well, this is actually wrong. I've just noticed that. That's not the paradox duplicate, that's the original. Anyway, back to one of my favorite scenes, because I got all this great depth of field and motion blur and really nice quality renders that I put in here, where they're coming after the plane and fire their grappling hook and reel them in. this panel here, just this one, I wish I had like a really large version of it because it just looks really nice. But you know, the larger you get, the worse it would look because these are kind of jagged and messed up around here. But yeah, anyway, this is somewhere that Chrono has been before, looking for crew to interrogate him, but there's nobody in here. So lights get shut out, voices on the intercom, zombies are back. So they got magic and they got blasters and they got swords and they're trying to move forward through the ship, and everything's getting blocked off and they're getting pulled out, and Link is trying to help them, and they all get split up. And this comic here is I think the most emotionally evocative in the series, in that it really expresses that intent of panic where he's trying to run. And he comes up to the upper deck, and I made this whole nice scene here, and there is a full wallpaper size render of this somewhere too, which was they never showed the bridge of the Blackbird in the game, so I had to just make something up. So I made this, and it's hard to see over here, but I threw some little references. I have the Mr. Coffee and Mr. Radar from Spaceballs in there, but showing that he found this room where, oh hey, they're safe in the hangar bay. Oh no, dropped him in the water. So he's trying to fight Magus face to face, and oh yeah, then we go back. He knows where Scala is, that's all I need to say. So Magus is not a bad guy. He's just very pragmatic and very self-oriented in his goals. He's just trying to get back to find his sister who was lost in time. And my plan for Magus was originally to be that he would turn to the good side later. I was going to have him do a heel face turn and switch from the bad guy's side to the good guy's side once he finds out where Scala is. So we have him doing like badass stuff in minimalist ways possible, like he like jumps off to make him think he's gone and then just teleports behind him and pushes him. And this is actually another this is a Skyward Sword reference, because if you fall off of a thing in Skyward Sword when you're up in the sky, you can whistle and get your bird friend to come and pick you up. And Chrono was flying around on the pterodactyl earlier, so I figured the same might work. So they are going to fly back, and because because Mega Man can't swim because he's made of metal, he has to walk back. Alright. So this dojo here is, this was a set that I just pulled off of a 3D site somewhere, but I included some signs back here, and for the love of me, I can't remember what they say. I think one of them says like little brother, and one of them says like green warrior or something. I can't remember, but it was something related to Luigi. And so I wanted to have him continue on with his like samurai training, and the idea was that he was going to go get this black sand that's in the creek bed because it's made of iron ore, and he needs to bring it back here to the barrel. And he doesn't explain why, but if you are familiar with medieval weaponry, that is the source of iron used in manufacturing katanas in feudal Japan. So he was going to be going across land and country to find this iron sand and bring it back. And he says, now that you've done as you asked, I brought the handful of black sand, now fill the barrel. Kind of a Mr. Miyagi kind of thing. Originally it was supposed to be like, okay, this is your training, you gotta run and get the sand. But I think I might have planned originally. I don't know if I put it in there because I don't think I have anything beyond this on Luigi's story. I was going to have him after he brought the barrel up. He says, you could have brought the barrel down there on a cart and filled it and brought it back. I wouldn't have said anything. But, yeah. So, that was supposed to be another little joke there. But, moving along, we got the courtyard of the bad guy's house. And this was strongly intended to show where he's brainwashing them and trying to get them on his side, because the whole thing with the sword and the gate was supposed to be that it was royal blood given willingly. So he has to convince them to give their blood willingly as a sacrifice to kickstart the thing. So he's using these hypno crowns, which is, questionable in terms of consent when they are agreeing to help resurrect Kefka. To say the least, questionable, but they have to do it themselves is all it is. So if I was going to keep going, I was going to have talking about how Chrono Trigger's princess is she's such a tomboy, and they're holding her back because she wanted her, the king wanted her to be a proper lady, blah blah blah, and so he's digging on that whole thing, that exposed nerve of trying to get the princess to try to leave her royal duties, and then for Princess Zelda, he's just like laying it on thick. She's like, "Oh, you must try the creme brulee; it's delectable." She's getting like just completely spoiled. I was imagining like she's just getting massages and facials and all kinds of stuff, and like he's whispering in her ear the whole time about, well, you need to let somebody else handle some of the big problems in your city. You're going to be the queen. You shouldn't be doing everything yourself. Delegate your tasks, and you can live the good life. And he was just going to try to turn her into like an aristocrat. But then you got Princess Peach over here, who's wearing the purple dress, which is a callback to an earlier goth Princess Peach thing. I was going to try to get him to go on this whole depression triggers kick on Princess Peach, trying to get her to abandon Mario because he always lets her get kidnapped, kind of stuff. So yeah, the whole idea was that he was manipulating them at the same time as he was doing other stuff. So we come back here, and this is when Chrono is being born. So Chrono, we've named your son after you. We've named our son after you. It's the best birthday gift I've ever gotten. So they have the same birthday, and they have the same name. So this is I think the last action sequence I had been rendering, where everybody gets into the castle, which is again also modeled after the castle in Mario RPG. And some more dialogue about how terrible King Dedede was, and this galaxy soldier army that doesn't exist anymore. It says, the authority which I arrest you is unrelated to the party that seeks to bring you to justice. That was intended to be a foreshadowing, in that I wanted the hand guy from the Kirby games, the big giant hand that like slaps down and walks around, or the bad guy boss in Smash Brothers, I want him to be the one that deals with Dedede at the end after he's captured and stuff, and that's what I was going to allude to there. But you have breaking in the back door, the Chancellor from Mario RPG, who is now also slave crowned. So, and back in '87, I began to think this diplomatic mission could have gone better. So, this is like just before the princess is born. He says we have to get you back to the ship before, or oh, this is when this is when Marley's being born. So I was trying to set this up as Chrono being Marley's protector, her bodyguard later on. Um, yeah, and it says, if you're willing, I'd like to promote you to the Royal Guard and name you as the princess's personal escort. So I was going to have this whole storyline with Chrono basically half raising Marley, and that's where she gets a lot of her tomboy tendencies from and stuff, because he would take her out to do archery and he would take her out to different places, and I was going to have actually a whole thing about them listening to music by Bob Marley, and that's where Marley got her name that she uses as a pseudonym instead of Princess What's-Her-Face, because I can't remember her actual name right now. But yeah, I was trying to make it look like a action movie sequence here, killing off everybody and taking the trucks. So yeah, and I even have some sprites, and I'm going to have to probably look at them a little bit here, but I've got some sprites that I'm going to pull up and show you that were things that I had planned for later that never showed up. And here's another quick reference that I wanted to just, this is more filler than anything, where saying that Tim Berners-Lee got the idea for the internet from Chrono. And there's that drawing of Samurai Luigi, which is it's actually a lot better than the earlier drawings. I gotta say, I will admit that I have improved my talent as an artist since I started this, and I don't cringe every time I look at my own art now. Just most of the time, not all the time. So here is another one of those side-by-side things. You're supposed to have two Magitech troopers coming in that are being run by Dreamland soldiers under DDD's control, which you may notice up here has that's DDD's logo that I have haphazardly spray painted over the front of these. So we got a nice action sequence, and coming back to hey, Sprite Comic is laid off, and author's not doing anything. We need to bribe them. But yeah, some more fighting, and I still like these, even though I don't like plan on continuing it. I really like how a lot of this turned out. But yeah, so and then yeah, if you go back and look at some of there was a lot of Mega Man, Mega Vision moments, and Peachy Vision was supposed to be kind of a play on that. So and it was real hard. I noticed a couple times comics I had to re-render scenes because I used the wrong sprite for the princess, where her eye was the wrong side. So I've tried to pay very specific attention to make sure that both her and Toad have their affectation on the left side. So she has her red eye and he has the eye patch on the left side in every frame. But that was hard to keep track of. So we've got some more battles and lightnings and attacking the robot drivers before they come in here and face DDD. So DDD runs off, leaving Meta Knight to fight the Magitech soldier, and Kirby runs after him. And that is the last comic that I made. So from here, I was going to have Kirby confront DDD, have a fight between them. He was going to do his thing with the hammer and the stars pop out and he could suck up the bits and shoot him back at him. But Kirby was going to stop DDD, and Meta Knight was going to stop the Magitech guy, and everything was going to be settled here. Once we find out that it was actually a slave crown, this guy is going to tell him to stand down, and they find out that he was under the influence of a slave crown, and the relic that they find is actually in the basement. probably was going to have like a hidden path or something behind the treasury that you can get access in the game Mario RPG, where they would have like a secret area that would have that in its location, and then that would have been 3 pieces of the Hades Gate. The 4th piece I wanted to have in the Koopa Kingdom because I really, really wanted to have an exploration of the Koopa Kingdom and show some propaganda of the Koopa Kingdom on the walls and kind of correlate it to looking like Soviet Russia, you know. I never really had a plot what I wanted to do in the Koopa Kingdom, but I did want to just go there. Maybe something with like the dry ruins or what have you. But once all that was settled, once all this here in the Mushroom Kingdom was settled, I was going to have this group find a thing that tells them to go to wherever in the Koopa Kingdom. They'll go there, and Link and Chrono and them. I think I was going to have them continue on trying to chase after Magus or something. I didn't have it pinned down 100%, and that's probably part of why I never finished Heroes Inc. as much as I did, because I had a vague story, but I didn't have every story beat pinned down. But anyway, let me pull back to which comic was that had the Catch Me Up, just for the sake of my reference of knowing where everybody is. What I had planned on doing was having Mario's group go to the Koopa Kingdom, find the next piece of the thing. I was going to have Luigi these 3 on the bottom were just kind of be just one-offs. The 2 main stories is Mario's group and Link's group. And Link's group, what did I say was they were gonna do after this whole thing? Have them like explaining it, or no? I don't think I ever did. I just had him saying, "Hey, we're gonna meet up on a beach or something." I was gonna have him talk on a beach later on this. He said he's going to meet us on an island, and we would, long story, tell you when we get there. So, the plan was going to be something to do with these guys continuing along finding Magus, or trying to find where the Hades Gate is supposed to be set up, or something like that. And the other group was going to be going to try to find the last piece of the gate. But what I was going to have happen is once this whole group gets all the 4 pieces of the Hades Gate, I was going to have our good buddy Locke here, good old thief and adventurer Locke from Final Fantasy III, turn on the group. I was going to have him be a secret plant working for Victor the whole time, and steal the 4 pieces and bring him back to Victor. And what that would do would have Locke set up as he was never really loyal to the group earlier because he was just doing it for money. But the reason he's doing it is because he was told that he could get Rachel back from Final Fantasy III, his girlfriend who died way back before the original game. And what I was going to have was the first test of the Hades Gate after they got out was that they were going to use Samus as a guinea pig. They were going to capture her, put her into the Hades Gate, and exchange her soul for Rachel's from Final Fantasy III as just a test to make sure it works, and then she can run off with Locke if she wants. That was the plan, and then there was going to be this whole thing where she like talks him down and turns him around and gets him to, you know, do another heel face turn. When he did a face heel, it'd be a face heel face turn, going from good guy to bad guy to good guy. But yeah, he was gonna pull a Kate Sith and backstab everybody, take the stuff back to the boss, and they were gonna be setting everything up and just about get Kefka resurrected. Um, and I was debating whether or not I should have Kefka actually get resurrected. I think I wanted to, but I wanted to have Kefka get resurrected and have the whole group have to work together and team back up after having Luigi, who is being trained in the samurai arts by Chrono, come back to the team and have everybody come back together and fight the boss at the end, and then everybody wins and the bad guy loses, and the princesses return to where they're supposed to be after they find out that they were under influence crowns instead of slave crowns, and everybody live happily ever after. And that's kind of what I was going to go with, which is a very kind of standard structure for an RPG story. But I believe, yeah. So I might throw some things onto Heroes Inc. on the page going forward. I've got a whole bunch of actual unused sprites that I wanted to show off at some point that were things that I never got around to using in the game for other things. So I have a couple variations of what Chrono should look like when he's older, and a couple different versions of Samurai Luigi, but since those never end up in a comic or anything, I don't know, I might just end up throwing them on the website. So, but anyway, so I guess this is kind of the end of the video, because I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. That's kind of where we were going with the comic, and it was going to end up being probably about 700 pages, because I got up to, I don't know how many pages I got up to, 500 and something. But, let's see, 530. I was thinking, yeah, about 750. I probably had another couple hundred pages in there, but at this point, I think that working on Heroes Inc. is not going to be doing me any more good in terms of my own personal creative visions for things. I would, at a certain point working on Heroes Inc., I felt obligated to do it more so just as there's 2 or 3 people that keep reading it, and I wanted to let them keep reading it more so than I actually had a passion for making the comic anymore. So, and that's kind of where it fizzled out. So right now, I mean, if you looked at one of the video I posted, I've explained how I'm working on video game design now, and I do have some ideas that would incorporate some of the Heroes Inc. themes and stories that I wanted to tell into video game products that I might be able to do later. And one of them even I had thought of doing was like a Mario game that was basically Heroes Inc. The game, and then release it for free online. I mean, if I release it for free, I can't get sued by Nintendo. That's how I've kept this under the radar for as long as it has. But so I don't think Heroes Inc. It's dead, but it's not forgotten. It is no longer going to have any more comics being updated, but I don't think that... I think it's been too much of a significant portion of my creative output over my lifetime for me to completely leave in the dust. And I've met a lot of great people through the comic, fans of the comic that I've become friends with later on, comic authors on other Sprite comics that I became friends with online because of working together in our collaborative forum that we made, the Pixel Pagoda, which I still have the domain for. I don't even know if I ever did anything with it. It's still there. I don't think it works anymore, though, because I never updated the PHP. Anyway, I'm just rambling on now. This is kind of just old man Robert giving his final farewell to everybody that read the comic in the past. And to those people, I do want to say thank you, because it was your support that kept me going on a lot of this over the years. So, anyway, as I said, dead but not forgotten. And if I get the opportunity, this story might get finished in another medium. But for now, I'm just going to have to call this bow tied and set it on the shelf and let it rest. So once again, thank you for watching. If you are interested in what I'm working on, in addition to, or instead of Heroes Inc., I'm going to include a link to my Patreon page, which I'm posting updates on my video game design projects that I'm working on, as well as, you know, personal stuff that I'm probably going to post this video there too. But I've got a new announcement that I'm going to be posting up there in a little while, probably tomorrow or something. So I'm going to have to record another video for it. But if you want to keep track of that, you can follow me there on Patreon, or, you know, on Facebook. Robert L. Lynch Building Worlds is where it's listed now, or Gem Studios, the video game studio I'm working on. That's where I'm going to be posting stuff from now on. So I'll try to include links to that in the stuff below. So if you wanted to follow me there, you're welcome to. But if not, then been nice knowing you. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for all the years of following the comic. That's been 2004. We're coming up on 16 years since I started the comic. People that weren't alive now when I started it would be in the target demographic for the comic now. So yeah, it's been a long ride, but I think I've come to a stop on it. So thanks again, and I guess that's it. Bye.